400 years after Jamestown's wooden walls crumbled into the soil, science has uncovered one of its most guarded secrets. It didn't begin with a history book. It began with a coffin, discovered beneath the church's chancel, the resting place reserved for the most powerful colonists. Inside were the remains of a man once celebrated as a gentleman soldier, buried with a lavish, silver-threaded military sash, and recorded in colonial documents as kin to the governor himself. But when scientists sequenced fragments of his DNA, the results revealed something shocking. It connected him to another high-status burial nearby and uncovered a secret his family fought to hide for centuries. A secret that crossed oceans, tangled noble bloodlines, and was deliberately erased from official records for over 400 years. What researchers uncovered wasn't just about ancestry. It was a revelation that rewrites everything we thought we knew about Jamestown. It begins in Jamestown, Virginia, the site of England's first permanent colony in North America. For decades, archaeologists have been carefully excavating the remains of the early settlement. But in 2013, they uncovered something extraordinary beneath the chancel, the sacred space near the altar of the Anglican Church. There they found 4 graves carefully arranged side by side. Unlike the hundreds of simple burials scattered elsewhere, one coffin even contained a rare military sash woven with silver threads, a clear symbol of wealth and power. At first, historians believed these graves belonged to the colony's most respected leaders, men of status, faith, and influence, who earned the right to rest closest to the altar. But as the team examined artifacts and historical records, subtle questions began to surface. Why were these particular men buried inside the church, while most settlers were laid to rest outside the fort walls? And why were their coffins crafted with such unusual care when survival in Jamestown was so uncertain? To unlock the mystery of the 4 graves, scientists began a detailed study of the remains, using cutting-edge ancient DNA techniques. Because Jamestown's soil is damp and acidic, organic material typically decays rapidly, but certain bones, especially teeth and dense femurs, can act like time capsules, protecting fragments of genetic code for centuries. In a clean laboratory designed to avoid contamination, researchers wore full protective suits and used sterilized tools to carefully extract samples from the deepest layers of tooth enamel and bone marrow. The material was ground into fine powder, treated with specialized chemicals, and run through advanced sequencing machines that read the genetic code letter by letter. The team expected the results to confirm what written records suggested, that these men were distant cousins from the same powerful English families. But when the first sequences came back, they revealed something no one expected. The DNA didn't just provide identities, it raised new questions about family ties and hidden connections. It was clear that Jamestown's history might not be as straightforward as the documents claimed, and the results would lead scientists deeper into a secret that powerful people had spent centuries trying to bury. When the genetic results were revealed, one discovery shocked the entire research team. 2 of the men buried beneath the church, Captain William West and Sir Ferdinando Wenman, shared an identical mitochondrial DNA sequence. Mitochondrial DNA, passed almost unchanged from mother to child for thousands of years, is often used to trace maternal ancestry. This exact match suggested that the 2 men had a close female relative in common, possibly a mother, grandmother, or even the same maternal line within just a few generations. But there was a problem. Historical records claimed these men were related through their fathers, connected distantly through the prominent West family line. Nothing in the genealogical documents hinted at a close maternal relationship, and yet the DNA left no room for doubt. With the DNA results in hand, historians turned to England's archives, determined to understand why the official records didn't align with the genetic evidence. They combed through probate files, family wills, church registers, and legal testimonies from the early 1600s, searching for any trace of missing information. Eventually, they discovered a critical detail hidden deep within a set of court documents. One testimony mentioned Elizabeth West, the unmarried aunt of Governor Thomas West, also known as Lord Delaware, one of Jamestown's most powerful leaders. The documents suggested that Elizabeth had given birth to a child outside of marriage, something that would have been considered scandalous among England's elite. If William West was indeed her son, it would explain why his mitochondrial DNA matched Sir Ferdinando Wenman, another close maternal relative. It would also mean that William was technically illegitimate, a fact that could have destroyed his reputation and barred him from inheritance. Suddenly, the inconsistencies in Jamestown's leadership records began to make sense. This wasn't just a mistake in paperwork. It was a deliberate effort to conceal a truth that powerful families needed to keep hidden for generations. The revelation was explosive for historians. In the rigid social hierarchy of 17th century England, family reputation meant everything. Among the gentry and nobility, legitimacy determined who inherited titles, land, and influence. A child born out of wedlock carried a stigma so damaging that entire family histories were sometimes rewritten to hide the truth. That's exactly what seemed to have happened with William West. Official records described him as the governor's kinsman, technically correct but deliberately vague, and gave him the privileges of high social rank. He was granted a military commission, honored with a prestigious burial, and presented as a gentleman soldier. But now, thanks to DNA evidence, we know that his bloodline was carefully restructured on paper to protect the family's name. This wasn't just about personal embarrassment, it was about power, influence, and control in the New World. To fully understand why this scandal mattered, we need to step back and look at Jamestown itself. Founded in 1607, the colony was England's first permanent settlement in North America, but survival was anything but guaranteed. The land was swampy, the water brackish and undrinkable, and disease spread quickly in the humid Virginia climate. Relations with the powerful Powhatan Confederacy shifted constantly between trade and open hostility, leading to frequent skirmishes over resources. By the winter of 1609, known as the Starving Time, conditions became desperate. Archaeological evidence shows that colonists resorted to eating rats, snakes, shoe leather, and even the remains of fellow settlers to survive. Out of nearly 300 residents, only about 60 made it through the winter alive. In this environment, leadership was critical. The men buried beneath the church weren't just honored for their social standing, they represented the fragile authority holding the colony together. But now we know that part of that authority was built on carefully managed appearances and rewritten family ties. In a settlement constantly on the brink of collapse, even a single scandal could undermine the power structures keeping Jamestown from falling apart entirely. For Jamestown's leaders, maintaining control wasn't just about survival, it was about status, loyalty, and family connections. Governor Thomas West, better known as Lord Delaware, wielded influence not only through his royal appointment, but also through his network of relatives who came to Virginia seeking opportunity. Aristocratic families often used colonies like Jamestown to position younger sons and cousins for wealth and leadership roles they couldn't achieve in England. William West and Sir Ferdinando Wenman fit neatly into this strategy. By placing them in positions of authority, the governor strengthened his family's control over the colony's political and economic future. But that control depended on maintaining appearances. This discovery highlights a fascinating clash between traditional history and modern science. For centuries, historians relied on written documents, church records, and family trees to piece together Jamestown's past. But DNA tells a different, more objective version of events. It doesn't respect titles or family reputations. It follows biological truth. Similar breakthroughs have happened elsewhere. In 2012, researchers used mitochondrial DNA to identify the remains of King Richard III beneath a parking lot in Leicester, rewriting centuries of debate about his burial. In London, Ancient plague DNA traced the Black Death's origins back to Central Asia, solving a mystery historians had argued about for generations. Now, Jamestown joins this growing list of sites where genetics challenges long-accepted narratives. The discovery of William West's hidden parentage doesn't diminish his role in history. It makes it richer, messier, and more human. It reminds us that behind every title, every recorded achievement, and every symbol of power, there are personal experiences, some celebrated, others carefully concealed. In many ways, DNA has become a new kind of historian, one that uncovers truths written not in ink, but in our very bones. The Jamestown discovery is just the beginning. Archaeologists believe dozens of unexcavated graves still lie beneath and around the church, waiting to reveal more about the colony's earliest settlers. New technologies are making this possible. Isotope analysis can trace where individuals grew up based on the chemical signatures in their teeth and bones. Environmental DNA, taken directly from soil samples, can identify pathogens and help reconstruct ancient diseases that shaped survival. Combining these methods with genetic sequencing could transform our understanding of colonial America, revealing who these settlers were, where they came from, and how they lived and died. And Jamestown isn't unique. Across the world, researchers are revisiting Viking ship burials, plague pits, and ancient battlefields with the same techniques. For over 4 centuries, the truth about William West and his family remained hidden beneath Jamestown's church, protected by carefully edited records and deliberate omissions. But DNA doesn't lie. It broke through the silence of time and exposed a secret so deeply buried that even historians doubted it existed. This discovery reminds us that history is never truly finished. The past can be rewritten by a single tooth, a fragment of bone, or a strand of genetic code. It also forces us to confront the reality that many of the accounts we've accepted as fact were shaped by power, ambition, and reputation. The men buried beneath Jamestown's church weren't just leaders. They were human beings navigating the same struggles, mistakes, and hidden dramas we still face today. And now, their identities are finally understood, not because the documents told us the truth, but because science refused to keep their secrets. The soil beneath Jamestown has spoken, and with every new discovery, it whispers a powerful reminder. No matter how carefully the past is hidden, time has a way of revealing what people once fought to erase forever. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe and join us for the next video where we uncover more untold stories from humanity's past. Each episode takes us deeper into the mysteries of history, connecting us to the people and events that shaped our world today.